So thank you for being here for our recognizing and reporting child abuse, which is the mandated reporter training. We're doing the same session in Spanish next Monday at 1 o'clock. Today we're doing English, which I'm sure you're all know already. We're going to send out after the session a link to the recording so that if you want to share it with your staff, you have that ability, or with your colleagues, you have that ability to do that. We will also be uploading the recording to the Ready to Grow YouTube channel. So it will live there until we do another one next year. So anytime you pull or you hire someone new to your program, you can go to the Ready to Grow YouTube channel and access it or share it with a new employee, so they have the required training from the experts. And that is what is special about today, is that in our community and regionally, the CASIE Center is the expert with this topic, along with CAPS and Elkhart. They too are experts. The CASIE Center is located in South Bend and is known for this preventative work around child abuse training, and is also known for the forensic interviews they do and have instituted, so that a child, if they need to be interviewed, the CASIE Center brings all parties together with an expert interviewer, so the child only has to go through such a situation once. So the CASIE Center is progressive and helping us all with the important job of keeping our children safe from a preventative perspective. They also do other important work, and I'm sure Angie will tell you about that, work related to truancy and other training. So it's my pleasure. Are we able to, do we know if we're able to share yet, Angie?
Oh, I think so. We're gonna try.
There you go. We are all taking a deep breath and sending Angie best
Positive.
wishes,
Yeah,
right? We're wishing Angie well we're doing our conscious discipline breathing with and
mhm,
for you, Angie.
right?
Um, because we've all been there. We all know that it's complicated. One, th-
Yay.
one thing would like you to do is we'd like you to
Mhm.
put your name and your program in the chat box. We want to make sure that we have all the folks. We have attendance for all the folks, so we can send the participation certificate, and we also can send the recording your way. Um, so now I would like to just introduce Angie, a dear, dear friend to Ready to Grow. She has been involved with Ready to Grow St. Joe, our early childhood coalition, before it was named Ready to Grow. And it was just the Early Childhood Coalition of St. Joe County. She was on the committee for creating Ready to Grow, and has been a dedicated servant to young children and to youth and to best practices throughout her career, and was a teacher once upon a time. And we all love our teachers. So
Oh,
I'm going to go ahead and let Angie take over, but I don't see your screen yet, Angie. Oh, here it comes.
no.
Anticipation, the drum roll.
We're hoping this works. Okay, everybody, let's try it. Let's see. Tell me if this comes up. Are you seeing this?
We are. There it is. Oh, yay. We're so happy. It was all our best wishes.
You're right. That's the
Yeah.
power of positive thinking right there.
Thank you for being
Woo-hoo.
here, Angie. I'm going to turn
Oh,
it right over to you.
wonderful. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Terry. So
You're
happy to be
welcome.
here. Slightly delayed, but we were just trying to figure it out. So thank you again. We are all here. April is Child Abuse Prevention Month. And over the past couple of years, CASIE Center has really been spending some time focusing on how do we get ahead of child abuse? How do we help prevent it? Because a lot of the work that we do here with the forensic interviews is after something has happened, right? And so, one piece that we have decided to focus on is this mandated reporter training. And It's incredibly important. So I'm so thankful that you're all here today, because you are the ones that might be seeing, might be noticing, or that a child talks to about abuse that's happening at home. So we like to go over recognizing what abuse might look like, and what what happens when a child does report, and how you then report it. So why are we here? What is a mandated reporter? We'll review that quickly. What are the 4 types of child abuse and possible indicators for each? When a child discloses or makes a disclosure, what are we hoping that you'll do? And that really is a minimal facts interview. We'll talk about what that means. Once you have that information, how do you make a hotline report? I think that's the hardest part sometimes, right? Is that scary, I have to make a call. I don't know how to do it. So we're going to talk you through that a little bit, and then we'll go quickly through what happens next after you make that call. So one thing I like to start with always is Indiana Code 31-33-5, which basically says everybody in the state of Indiana, 18 or older, is a mandated reporter. Some states do it differently. Some say only teachers or nurses or people that work with kids. But in the state of Indiana, anybody over the age of 18 who has reason to believe a child is a victim of child abuse or neglect must make a report to DCS, Department of Child Services, or to law enforcement, one or the other. We like to add in here, teachers and school staff have an individual obligation to report that cannot be satisfied by reporting to someone else within the school. It became a real problem in Indiana when, and I, as Terry mentioned, as a former teacher, I had principals that would say to me, just let me know and I'll take care of it. They said to the teachers, I'll make the call. And sometimes that call did not get made. So they went ahead, state of Indiana made clear in law that if you are the person, if you are the teacher or the adult that believes something has happened or has been told something has happened, you are responsible to make the call. Now, can you do that with someone? Absolutely. With a supervisor, with someone that you work with? Absolutely. But a school cannot put in place, or a program or any type of early care and learning program cannot say, I'll report it for you. You're obligated to make that report. Okay. I just like to make that clear. Now, why do we talk about this? Why does this matter? Sometimes people say, there's not that much abuse out there. Unfortunately, because of the work we do at CASIE Center, we know that there is that much going on. 1 in 10 children will be sexually abused before they turn 18, which is pretty unsettling when you think about it. 90% of children are sexually abused by someone they know, and often by someone they trust. That makes it that much harder for children to share what is happening, right? If it's someone they know and love, it makes it normal, that it makes it part of the relationship. And so they also don't want to get somebody in trouble. Research has found 1 in 4 girls, 1 in 13 boys experience child sexual abuse. Many times, I'm skipping down to the bottom there, children don't realize what's happening is wrong, that it's abuse. That's why we need to be talking about this, okay? Kids don't realize it, and so it does fall upon us as the adults to be aware and kind of on the lookout so that we can advocate for them. Now, one issue that we do run into a lot is underreporting. Why are people not reporting the child abuse that maybe they do see, or they have a suspicion that something is happening? A couple of reasons that we've run into: lack of awareness of who is a mandated reporter. And now everyone, all of us are mandated reporters, so no question there. Believing someone else has already reported it or will report it. I've been in presentations before, and the social worker is there with me. Both of us hear something, a child tells both of us. We are both still obligated to tell. I can't just assume that someone else will report it. If I'm aware of something, I need to report it also. And please understand that DCS would much rather have several people report the same, 5 or 6 people report the same thing than one person not reporting it at all. Okay. A perceived lack of response by child welfare, law enforcement. So sometimes we all get a little frustrated maybe with the way that DCS or law enforcement responds, but that's not up for us to decide. Okay. We can be frustrated all we want. That's not enough reason to not report something. Feeling the abuse is not serious enough, not for us to determine. That's their job. That's DCS. That's law enforcement's job. Let them decide if it's serious enough. Thinking reporting will make it worse for the child. Please know that it's possibly already worse. And if you don't report it, it will possibly get worse whether you report it or not. So please don't let that be a reason to not report. Believing it can't be reported if it's hearsay. I personally have made a call to DCS with something that was told to me by another child, right? The child themselves didn't tell me, their friend told me. That's hearsay, but it was alarming enough, right? I was concerned that I went ahead, and you're just going to tell the people when you're reporting that you did not hear this directly from a child, but you still do need to report it. And some people don't report because they're uncertain about what information to report. And that's why we're here today, is to go over that information so you won't feel uncomfortable about that. So let's start with the types of abuse. You can't obviously report what you don't recognize. Like I said earlier, there are 4 types of abuse, possibly that we would be looking for working with children. Emotional abuse is inflicting mental or emotional injury on a child, and not just an adult saying something, but also allowing them to be in a situation in which the child is being emotionally injured. So, exposing a child to domestic violence is actually a type of emotional abuse, because you're allowing a child to be around while the parents or caregivers argue around them. Okay. Examples of emotional abuse: name calling, obvious sorts of things, put downs, humiliating, verbal threats of death, serious injury. If a child shares with you something like that was said to them, that's verbal, that's emotional abuse. And terrorizing the child, making them think that, you're not going to return, that a parent or a caregiver is not going to return. That sort of creating a fear in that child is a type of emotional abuse. We'll go over possible indicators of each of these types of abuse. And please understand, I'm not going to say it each time, but this is not a checklist, but a guide to help you identify abuse when it is present. There is no checklist, right? It could look differently in each child, but mood change or behavior change is going to be typical for any kind of abuse. Demonstrating self-harming behaviors, and this can even show up in little ones, right? If that's the type of frustration that they're feeling, and then they are scratching, itching, that might be a sign of something going on. Delayed physical development, antisocial, destructive behavior, delinquent, especially in the older kids. Physical abuse is our second type of abuse. Child abuse that results in physical injury, hitting, kicking, burning. Seen a lot of choking lately going on. It's not injury resulting from physical abuse is not accidental. The parents or caregiver may not have intended to hurt them. Sometimes things happen that maybe were not intended to be hurtful, but they are still abuse. Injury may have resulted from severe discipline, and I guess that's what we're meaning here, which is inappropriate, right? Especially if it leaves a mark or any sort of tool or belt, spoon, those sorts of things that rises to the level of physical abuse. And we can see it starting with something small, bruising, cuts, but can also, if not taken care of or looked into, often can lead to death. It starts off as one and then escalates into more severe. Possible indicators of physical abuse, again, the mood or behavior changes, injuries, burns, bites, bruises that you see, injuries involving back of hands, face, bottom. Fear of going home or seeing parents or caregivers would be a possible indicator. Injuries that appear after the child has not been seen for several days. This is one of the reasons we are doing a truancy prevention program. We want to make sure the kids are okay, especially if they're out for several days. Delayed or inappropriate treatment of injuries, passive, withdrawn, emotional, but also on the other side, aggressive, disruptive behaviors. An exaggerated startled response, that when someone goes to touch your shoulder, it could be a sign. Neglect is actually the third type of abuse. It is the most common in Indiana, I think probably nationally. I think over 70% of the calls in Indiana and in St. Joe County specifically are related to neglect. That can be failure to provide needed food, shelter, clothing, medical care, supervision, and this can also include not arranging for necessary care for a child, meaning child being left alone for long periods of time. Unfortunately, of all the types of abuse, neglect results in the most deaths for children as well. So again, one of those things that maybe we think shouldn't be too worried about, but it does result in the most deaths. Children with disabilities, extensive medical needs are at a higher risk. And I like to always say here, neglect is not the same thing as poverty. Poverty may create some of the conditions, but poverty itself is not neglect. And that's where I think maybe a lot of the calls come from. Well-intentioned, but we'll talk more about how we can connect families with resources in the future in the next part of the presentation. Possible indicators of neglect: obvious malnourishment, inadequate nutrition, lack of personal cleanliness, consistent hunger, stealing, begging for food, extreme need for affection. I think we can all think of children like that we've worked with. Frequent absences, tardiness from school. A child simply tells you there's no one there or that they've been left alone. And this is an interesting one. Unmet needs such as glasses, dental, or medical care can be a type of neglect, especially if it's keeping the child from, being their best selves. That is a type of neglect. And the fourth type, sexual abuse. Here's your big long definition of it. But really, any sexual act between an adult and a minor is considered sexual abuse, period. Now, that can be between two minors also. When one exerts power, so that could be one is older or one is someone's boss, like when they're in teenage years. But most of the time, what we're talking about is going to be sexual acts between an adult and a minor, or an older, 10-year-old with a 4-year-old type of situation. Possible indicators of sexual abuse: major change, again, in that mood or behavior, pain, swelling, itching in the genitalia area. This is where we're going to see, right, in our early learning environments, if you are seeing a child needing to frequently go to the bathroom, You might see behavior that's excessively seductive, right? A child that's just acting out in a way that is not appropriate for their age or shows a premature understanding of sex. They learned that somewhere, right? And that is when you should, it's a red flag, thinking, where have they seen that? Also, drawing sexually graphic pictures, things that, a 4-year-old should maybe not know, could be an indicator. Extreme fear of being alone with certain individual, um, sexual victimization of other children. We've done a lot of work here at the CASIE Center with children that have been sexually abused, and very often the uh, young abuser, so let's say a 12 or 13-year-old abusing a younger child, that 12 or 13-year-old themselves have also been a victim of sexual abuse. Not always, but often. And we do sometimes find a sexually transmitted infection. So we like to mention here also grooming, a term that I'm hoping several of you are familiar with it. Sexual abuse itself is a unique form of child victimization. It's almost always done by someone who is in a position of trust or authority, and might be just absolutely the last person you would expect. And that's that grooming process. The perpetrators groom the children, but they also groom the parents, the family, and community. They earn the trust. That's the whole process of grooming, is earning the trust so that no one suspects anything. Okay. It involves building a relationship with the child and the family to gain their trust. It could include treating the children more special than others by buying the child gifts, giving them money, special treats, they might call it, making excuses to be alone with that child, sending private messages, social media, touching, whether it is appropriate or inappropriate. Often groomers, people that are grooming, start with the touch to see how they respond, and then they go someplace, touch a little more inappropriate, just to see how a child will respond, if they will say no or stop them, or if they tell. And if the child doesn't, then they continue on. Viewing the child nude or exposing the child to nudity, showing the child pornography. I also mentioned these things here also as kind of a checklist of things not to be doing, right? As people working with children, I need you to be aware of that. Times are different, right? By giving a child a gift because, you thought maybe you thought of them and this might be something they would really enjoy, it can be perceived, as grooming. So we've got to be very careful about how we are as those working with children, the types of things that we're doing. So just want to make you aware of these things as well. So those are the types of abuse you might physically see, right? That you should be on the lookout. But then there's also the possibility, even littles might come up and share something with you. And so that is called a disclosure. So we talk a little bit more about the disclosure process, and it is often not a one-time event. 1 in 4 victims disclose immediately after abuse occurs, so that you can see 25% of victims disclose 1 month to 5 years later, and over 50% wait more than 5 years to disclose, if they disclose at all. That's part of the reason CASIE wanted to start going out into the schools. We are doing a safety matters presentation now with children, pre-K through all the way through high school, because we want to increase the likelihood that a child does disclose, that we're not 50%, right? Like, we're hoping that if we are having these conversations in school about types of abuse, just like I shared with you, and how to talk to a safe adult about it, that maybe we can change those statistics. I'll talk a little bit more about the program that we're doing at the end here. So disclosure could be done on lots of different ways. We'd like to make you aware of these again, just because I find this fascinating. These are things I'm sure we've all heard and didn't think twice about. So a hinted disclosure, a neighbor's messing with me, or my cousin keeps bothering me. Those are things like, oh, I'm sure it's no big deal. Or, don't think twice about it. If a child says something like that, just a simple, tell me more about that. Or what do you mean by keeps bothering me? Just a quick follow up just to make sure, it could just be a brother messing with you, keeps getting in my toys, but it could be something more. So sometimes children are hinting at it. They're trying to see if you are a safe adult that they can talk to. A questioned disclosure. What would happen if somebody was hurting a kid and they told someone about it? We were out doing presentations at a school, and we had a child kept raising his hand during the presentation. Well, what if someone comes in the bathroom when you're in there? Is that okay? A couple of minutes later, what if they climb under the stall? So kept questioning, trying to see how comfortable he was talking to us about it and how we would respond. So it can start with a question, conditional as well. I need to tell you something, but if I do, you can't tell. And I would never, ever recommend lying to a child. In this situation, it's okay to say, hey, you know what? It's my job to make sure you're safe. So I can't promise you that, but I'd still love you to talk to me about this. Okay. And sometimes they're just going to tell you they want to share everything right now. So that's called an active disclosure. If a child does disclose to you, you are their safe adult. And as your safe adult, there's a couple of things that we want you to remember. Your main focus is protecting that child. Okay. Always believe the child. That is sometimes going to be hard because we've all got those kids that, right? Oh, they've got a big imagination. Oh, you know how they are. You know how Joey is. Always believe the child, but be careful not to interrogate. Okay. There's a fine line there. We'll talk more about that. Don't be judgmental, disgusted, or harsh. Like we said, 90% of the time, it's usually someone they love, and they don't want that person to get in trouble necessarily. They just want the abuse to stop. Okay. They know something's wrong. They shouldn't be doing this. They just want it to stop. We always say, fix your face, right? Try and be calm, remain self-aware. If a child feels responsible for your emotions, they can see that you are upset, visible, they will often shut down, right? They just want to please us. They don't want to upset us. And if we aren't able to kind of hold it together, which in these situations is really hard to do, do your best, though, to kind of stay calm and aware of how you are responding. If a child discloses to you, as mentioned before, you must make the report yourself. You can't hand it off to somebody and say, hey, report this for me. We recommend that you report as soon as possible, because if it is something that is happening that the child will be going home to, we want to make sure that we can prevent that child from having to go home to that situation. Okay. So we say as soon as possible. So if a child discloses something at 10 in the morning, we're not saying, hey, I'm going to wait until after school or when they go home, because what if they are going home to an unsafe situation? So the sooner you get things moving, the sooner we can make sure that child is safe. Okay. And this one's hard, right? As a parent myself, I think I would want to know what's going on, but don't tell the child's parents a report was made. Unfortunately, we know that that can lead to coaching or destroying of evidence. If DCS is called and they determine that the parent is not an alleged perpetrator, they will call the parent and include them in the conversation. But sometimes, the parent could be the perpetrator, or the parent, they find out, maybe was aware of what was going on and had not made the call. And so we want to make sure that we can gather evidence without sometimes the parents knowing and having the opportunity to talk to the child about it before they get questioned. So, child comes to you, is ready to talk. I want you to remember the term minimal facts interview because basically we want to minimize the trauma to a victim of child abuse, and only minimal facts should be gathered. The whole idea of here at CASIE Center, like Terry mentioned earlier, is bringing a child to the CASIE Center to do the interview with a specially trained forensic interviewer. Before the CASIE Center, a call was made to DCS. The child had to share their story with the DCS worker, with the social worker, with the nurse at the hospital, with the doctor, with the police, re-traumatizing, right? We all know good trauma-informed practices, and this was not best practice. So what we're hoping to do is gather minimal facts so that you can make the call, and then, like it says here, the child can be taken to the Child Advocacy Center, which is what CASIE is, and a specially trained adult will do that interview there. Also, there's some concern if you ask questions that you shouldn't be asking, that can kind of jeopardize the integrity of the actual investigation, right? There is concern, if this goes to trial, if there are charges, we want to make sure that no information has been given to the child through the questions that are asked. So minimal facts means that you need minimum details. You all that you need: who, what, when, and where. Who was involved, the alleged perpetrator, and their relationship to the child. That's all that you'll need. What type of abuse occurred? That's why we go through the different types of abuse, so that you would be able to share that when you make a call. When did it happen? And when will they see the perpetrator again? This again is important because they have to have this information to determine how quickly their response needs to be, right? If this happened 6 months ago while the child was on spring break, is very different than 3 days ago at grandpa's house, and grandpa's picking them up possibly from school that day. Now, this is one, right, with our young ones, it can be hard with time, and I get that. So if you can use holidays, days like that to use as markers. Was this near, depending on what, was this near spring break? Was this near Easter? Using those sorts of things to help them kind of remember. And if the child is not able to give a great timeline, that's okay too, right? That's part of our forensic interviewers are great at working through a timeline with a child. So and where did the abuse happen? This is more for jurisdiction reasons, right? If something would need to be charged, is that going to be charged in South Bend, in Mishawaka, St. Joe County? So was this at grandma's? Was this at their house? And, they will look into, the child does not need an address, all of that. Especially our younger ones are not going to know that, but saying it's grandma's house, and then police can look into where grandma lives, those sorts of things. If a child is in active disclosure, it's okay to begin with, hey, it's my job to make sure you are safe. And I just want to ask you a couple of questions. If the child still gives you those details, it's okay to say, hey, your story is so important to me. I know you want to tell me everything right now, but the best way I can help you is if I only have you answer just a couple of questions. I know you're ready to share, but the way I can help you the best, I want to make sure you get the help you need. the best way. And they understand. They really do. So just try and help them stop from giving too much so that they have the information to share when they do come someplace like CASIE Center. When you are doing the minimal facts interview, please be sure to use open-ended questions. Say things like, who did this? How did you get hurt? Tell me more about that. If you are putting information into their head, did mom hit you? Did grandpa leave that bruise? It may not be accurate, but because the child trusts and loves you, they may change their story to match the details that you just gave. Maybe it wasn't mom, but you said mom. And they're like, oh, yeah, maybe it was mom. And then their story changes to match yours. So having those open-ended questions, who did this? Tell me more about that bruise on your arm. You said, and if they say grandma did this, okay, help me understand what happened at grandma's house. Okay, just be patient. Let them answer the questions. I know, as caregivers, right? We want to make everything okay for the child. Let them answer the question in their own words. Don't finish their sentences. We want to hear what they have to say from their point of view, especially in their own words. Again, remember, don't investigate. We don't need all of the information. That's the job of DCS and for law enforcement. Always support and believe the child. Don't make promises you can't keep, which is a really hard one. You can't say anything like, I'm going to make sure you never have to see that person again. I'm going to make sure this never happens, because we can't guarantee that. But you can tell them you're not sure what's going to happen next, and you'll support and help them along the way. Okay? Please respect the child's privacy. Don't share information with anyone. Don't ask the child to share what happened with anyone else until DCS gets involved. Again, we don't want them to have to relive the trauma. And if you come across any note or drawing or any words, especially people have said, take notes during this disclosure, I would wait until after. But if they use any words specific about body parts or things that happened, especially if it's pretty inappropriate, right, for a child to know that kind of language, write it down, share those words or those pictures when you make the call, because sometimes that can link the person that did this with the activity that happened. Okay, so we have our information. We're ready to make the call. Let's go through that really quick, okay? The information you're going to gather before you make the report, as much as you can, with child's full name, address, date of birth, parents, siblings, other adults in the home. Those are things they're going to ask you for. If you don't have all of that, that's okay. Give them what you have. The who, what, when, where include what the child said happened in their words, and your concerns, location of any visible marks, and the state of the child, right? What kind of situation is the DCS worker going to be walking into? Kind of helps prepare them on how to talk to the child. Are they feeling embarrassed? Those sorts of things. If you believe a child is being abused or neglected, just always make the call. Okay, that's the advice. Don't second guess yourself. If you think something's happening, make the call. If you're not sure if something's happening, make the call. Let somebody else decide that. And there's the number. You're going to make the report. An intake specialist answers the hotline and enters the report into the case management system. It's called the MAGIC system. They'll ask you your name and contact information and how you know the child. You can, of course, do it anonymously, but if you don't give them your contact information, they can't reach back out to you. if you have additional information or if they need to follow up on anything. So you'll report the who, when, who, what, when, where. Again, using those child's words, not making assumptions, not adding in but what the child says. If the intake specialist asks you questions you don't have the answer to, be honest. It's okay to say, I don't know, or I didn't ask that. Don't go back and ask the child, hey, I forgot to ask you. And they ask some crazy questions, right? Not crazy, things that I wouldn't expect. Are there pets in the house? Do you know if they have any tribe affiliation? Questions that I don't know, and it's okay to say, I don't know. They have a list, they have a script that they go through. Okay. It's okay at the end. I would always ask the intake specialist name and get a report number. They will give you a report number, and you can ask whether this is going to be screened in, which means they're going to look at it, or if it's being screened out, which means it doesn't rise to the level of child abuse and they're not going to look at it. You can ask them that. Now, after that intake specialist looks at it, please understand the intake specialist is in Indianapolis. Okay. The intake specialist determines if the report meets the legal definition. And if it does, then they assign a response time. So that's when I was saying make the call as soon as possible earlier. If it's immediately needs to be dealt with, then they will have within 24-hour response time. Sometimes they go a little bit longer, or if it's something that the child is not in immediate danger, they'll extend it a little bit longer. So that intake specialist decides, again, whether it's going to be screened in or screened out. Those are kind of words you'll hear. Hotline supervisor there in Indianapolis reviews the report. The report is then sent to the local office. So this is the first time then it comes back to St. Joe County. And the local office may change the status on whether it's screened in or screened out. Okay, so just because someone in Indianapolis said, no, we're not going to take it, it still gets sent to the local office. And maybe this is a family that the local office knows, and they're like, no, we're going to look at this one. Okay. Screened in cases are assigned to a family case manager, an FCM, who contacts the family. And that FCM has 40 days to complete their assessment. If abuse is substantiated, it means that there is reason to believe that there is abuse. DCS enters a plan with the family. Sometimes they open something called a CHINS, Child in Need of Services, which then is a plan on how to help eliminate that abuse from that family. Things to keep in mind that once the intake specialist receives your hotline report, this is now an open investigation. They're very limited in what they can share with you. A report can be screened out for not meeting legal definition of abuse or neglect, but it also can be screened out if the case has or is being investigated. So please don't think that just because it's screened out, it means nothing's being done about it. There might already be an open case. And remember that it is, even if it is screened out, it is in the magic system. Okay, it stays there. So the likelihood then, if there are several cases over time, then we'd like to believe, right, that the next time there's a call that they will screen it in because they see that there's multiple calls. If you forget to mention a detail or something new comes to light, it can be added to the report. Simply call the hotline, give them that report number. That's why it's so important. And the intake specialist that you talk to, and they will attach additional information. Please remember, and this is big, that there is no legal risk in making a report. Even if it's classified as unsubstantiated, even if they find that nothing happened or they determine nothing happened, there's no abuse. you are acting in good faith, you are not at legal risk for making a call or reporting. But it is illegal to fail to make the report. As we showed at the beginning, it's a state law and it is a Class B misdemeanor if you don't. Um, and as we talked about with the underreporting before, you may not always agree with the decisions that are made. They may say to you, no, we're not going to substantiate this, and you're frustrated, but you can still try to help that child. There are lots of local agencies available, community partners, Bowen Health, Oak Lawn, are a couple that you could reach out to, especially if it's that neglect. Community Partners does a nice job of connecting families with resources. Bowen Health is now doing wraparound kind of services where you're doing mental health and physical health as well. And Oak Lawn is our local provider for mental health services. And like to finish with, if not you, then who? Children often cannot be their own voice. They need someone, they need you to stand up and to be an advocate for them. Some helpful resources here, Department of Child Services, some laws, if you want to dig deeper, indiana.gov. Darkness to Light does a program that talks about child abuse prevention for adults. That's my contact information, Angie at CASIE Center. I'm always available. I'd also love to come out and do this presentation with staff at any time, or any organization that you're a part of that works with children or comes into contact with children, because as we said, everybody is a mandated reporter in Indiana. Okay, so that's a lot of information, but that is what I have for today. Let's go back. Does anybody have any questions about what we just covered? Or anything that jumped out, or, not questions, but comments that you like to bring up?
Angie, oh, sorry.
No, it's
I was
okay.
going to share that if someone would like to come off mute and ask a question, they can, or if
Yeah.
someone would prefer to put it in the chat box, we're happy to monitor the chat box and just share the question. It's such a tough subject. And Angie, I so appreciate the presentation with your slide deck compared to the recording last year. I
Right.
know you put a lot of effort into the slide deck and to the presentation, and I just thought it certainly humanized it in a good way. Plus, it gives us even more contact time with you. But yeah.
Yeah. And it's a tough topic, right? It's not something we really want to talk about because we'd love to believe that this isn't happening, but it is. We know that it is all ages, right? And so something we just need to start having this community-wide conversation about. So that will lead into my shameless plug for our mention again the program that we're doing in schools. As mentioned, we have a pre-K piece component, which I love. It introduces basically the 5 safety rules that we will be teaching and utilizing kindergarten through high school. So if anybody is interested, we would love to come out. We can talk more about the program, but we can also come out and do the program. We've been at ECDC. We'll be there again this year. East Bank, South Bend Preschool. It's been, I think, a very positive experience. Good Shepherd has had us out to their preschool. And we're welcome to come to homes or any of the different learning centers, environments. We'd be very happy to come out. So it's just it's a nice piece to start the conversation. And actually, we had one of the South End schools invite us back in for a parent conversation as well. So we are available to do that as well with the program, which I really appreciated because the kids are hearing this language, these 5 safety rules, but then how can they use those at home as well, right? It's a nice way for parents and other adults to have a tough conversation. If we've already got the language of the safety rules and those things, it's a nice way to have those conversations.
Oh, it looks like Yolanda might have a
Oh,
question. Yolanda?
no.
Yes, I truly have enjoyed this presentation. It was very refreshing, and it beats listening to the presentations with the slides
Great.
on iLead. So this is very, very helpful. So I appreciate that. But
Thanks,
I
Yolanda.
wanted to know if it were possible, if we could get, well, if I don't know if anyone else was interested, but you were mentioning the 5 talking points for your pre-K and your kindergarten class.
Yeah.
Can I get a copy of those 5 talking points so I can talk to my 3 and 4, 5-year-old?
Yeah. Yes, but I would also love for us to come out and do the presentation with your kiddos, and then you can follow up with the conversation.
Oh, okay.
Because we come out and we do it for free. I should always say that, and I forget to lead with
Mm-hmm.
we do
Right.
all of this for free, right? So we come out and we do the presentation, and the preschool lessons are awesome because it's 4 days, 15 minutes a piece for 4 days, right? So it's very
Okay.
developmentally appropriate.
Yeah.
We're not going to go over 4 types of abuse, right? Dig deep. We do that as they get older. The program's
Right.
does
Right.
a nice job of making sure the information that's shared is appropriate to that level. So Yolanda, I would love to have a follow-up conversation about
Absolutely.
that. So if you will email me at that Angie at CASIE Center
Okay.
and just say, hey, I was on the presentation today, would love to talk more about you coming out, and we would love to set that up.
Okay. Thank you so much. Again, I
Absolutely.
appreciate you.
Oh,
Thanks,
thank you.
Yolanda. So we
Uh-huh.
do have someone with a question, Angie. Another question like Yolanda. I have a student who has witnessed abuse in the past between his parents, and we have reported that. Recently, he mentioned that his dad is too strong and his mom is scared. Is that something to report?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That would, in my mind, fall under the emotional abuse. And
I'm sorry, but that was
that's
from
okay.
my center. And
Sure.
Okay.
I was going to comment that I did call the CASIE Center and ask if I should report that because there was a police report.
Okay.
And they said, yes, still call because
Absolutely.
they don't know where the police report would take
Yeah.
it. So
Yeah.
so we
Thank you.
did do
Great,
that.
great, great.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah,
And
it's a great
that's
question.
interesting because so in the state of Indiana, domestic violence becomes a felony if there is a child present. And so many of our cases are interlinked. We work very closely. Family Justice Center is co-located here in our building with us. And so we work together on a lot of domestic violence cases. And so, yes, often police get called for the domestic violence piece. Police know that they can bring children here also for an interview. It doesn't always go through DCS. So they can end up here for an interview through law enforcement or through a DCS call, but it's best to do both just in case. Yeah, just to make sure it gets covered.
Angie, another question. Is this the same 5 safety tips that CAPS is leading in schools as well? So
Absolutely.
okay.
So when we first chose this program about 3 years ago, the first thing we did was looked around, see what everyone else was using. We didn't want to duplicate services. We also didn't want to make things more difficult by having competing programs. And so Elkhart and LaPorte County, so to the east and the west of us, are also using the same program. We chose to adopt the same program they were using, because we know the children are moving, right, between the counties regularly, or you work in Elkhart and you live in St. Joe, or, back. So yes, we are all using that same curriculum, the Monique Burr Foundation Safety Matters program. Absolutely.
Great. So I will make sure to put in your in the follow-up email with the recording, and then maybe the slide deck. Is that
Sure.
something you can share as well?
Yep.
We will put your contact name in there so that
Absolutely.
we can encourage people to get in touch with you if they want to talk about CASIE Center staff coming out to their programs, as
Absolutely.
well as it's called the Monique Burr, B-U-R-R, right?
Yep. Monique Burr Foundation, MBF, Safety Matters program. And again, would love to talk more about it, coming
Yeah.
out to a school and coming out to do a mandated reporter training, coming out to do the Safety Matters program with parents, with kids, however, whatever you're ready for. And
Okay.
all for
And
free. We're
yeah,
available.
such a resource. So then I just want to mention how our conscious discipline, nurturing resilience and building brains with conscious discipline, had 2 parenting events last year that were
Yes.
focused on the calm, right, and the connection. One of those was in person with 60 parents. One was online, Zoom, 37 parents. And this is also how we as early educators and program leaders can support prevention by
Absolutely.
connecting our families with evidence-based, adult-first, relationship-centered strategies. So
Yes.
we're so lucky that both Heidi White, certified conscious discipline instructor, and Angela Fraley, our great rock star, Angela Fraley, will
Yeah.
be doing additional parenting sessions, at least
Great.
4 more, one in the fall in person, one in the upcoming spring, meaning spring of 27. That sounds way
Okay.
off, but it isn't. But then
Wow.
this is going to happen across 2 years, where
Great.
families will come together and we will feed them pizza, a slice of connection and a slice of pizza, as we continue supporting emotional regulation in an adult first
Love it.
community. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Love it so much.
good. Well, thank you so much, everybody. Any last questions? So many thank yous, and that you
Mhm.
did a great job.
Thank you.
I
I do
just want to
appreciate it.
share that.
Yeah. No, I do appreciate it. It was a little different than last year, just having it not in a recording. And we're glad we took the time, right, to
Yeah.
make it in person. So thank you for allowing us the opportunity.
And any of those questions that come to you afterwards, just contact Angie,
Absolutely.
and she'll
Anytime.
connect you. Yep.
No, and I
She'll
love
either
that
do
Lisa
it
said
or
she called. She had a question.
yeah,
Absolutely. Call CASIE, call me.
that's
We're
great.
here.
And guess what, you guys? I saw Lisa look like she was in the hospital. Our friend Lisa Sheets from East Bank. It looked like a hospital bed to me. So whatever's going on,
No,
let's wish her well.
I'm fine. I'm home today. So
Okay.
no, I'm just
Okay.
relaxing in a chair. So no, I'm fine.
Okay. Oh, I
Thank
thought
you.
it looked like you were, little
I just
pictures.
look a little, yeah,
Yeah,
didn't do
little
anything too
pictures.
much to
Okay, well,
myself. I'm
then
good.
I'm glad you're getting to relax at home. We're wishing you extra well. Okay, thanks
Hey,
everybody for coming. We really appreciate what you do. Take good
Thank
care.
you.